Hello, welcome to Gabriel's travel companion experience. This is where I'll be reading a book or some kind of material and just take you along with me on the journey. It's more of a fellowship than a book review. So here is to the journey. So this is The Courage to Be Disliked. This book is by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. I hope I did you justice. And I'll just start with a quote. All right. So, when we try to change how we see the world and ourselves, we put our great courage to the test. There is the anxiety generated by changing and the disappointment that comes with not changing. I am sure you have chosen the disappointment. It's more of a paraphrase than a quote. I took some liberties with that. The first night of this book, which is as far as I've gone so far, this is the first night or the first of 5 sections of the book, is framing the journey that we're going to take. Already it's challenging a lot of assumptions and a lot of inertia in my life. This initial contrast between the idea of changing and the idea of staying in some kind of safe space and being disappointed because I'm not changing is relevant. Growth is a thing that I'm a fan of, but of course the anxiety that comes with it is a challenge. Maybe you can relate. So I have been for some years now standing on this kind of threshold of, I know that I want to change, to evolve in certain ways that challenge a lot of the core safety spaces of, who is Gabriel. And this book has really helped me self-reflect already. I know the journey through the end of the book will see me equipped to challenge myself and move past a lot of these barriers that I've constructed that keep me safe, but also keep me from growing. That's basically the idea here, what the first night sets up. So, present goals is one of the themes here. The past does not define us, but we use the past as a tool to inform the goals we set. There is a kind of philosophy / psychology that this book is grounded in that is more about, well, how does our vision of the future inform the way we act in the present, as opposed to how the past informs the way we act in the present. So we set goals based on what we want or don't want out of the future, and those goals certainly can be, most likely are, informed by the past, events that feel traumatic or events that feel great, things that we've discovered we do or don't want to deal with. We'll say, I don't want to deal with that anymore, so I'll create a goal that reduces the likelihood of me encountering that kind of situation again. But the problem is when those types of goals limit my ability to move forward in meaningful ways. So a question we can ask are do the goals that we've established help us or hold us back? people fabricate anger. Already in the first night, we're confronting a lot of assumptions about the way the world works. And this section, page 15 in here, is where it starts. I had to step back and think. I was given, for myself, some questions to meditate on. When I am frustrated, what is my actual goal? One of the provocations in here, it's like a Socratic dialogue between a philosopher and a youth who is eager to assert his viewpoint and prove the philosopher wrong, and the philosopher is kind of like a little more chill, like water, but slowly presenting things that help the youth see, like, okay, what are you talking about? So one of the things that's presented is the idea that frustration is a fabrication in order to carry out some other goal. So we can live life not getting frustrated is one of the promises. And so what I wonder is, when I get frustrated, which I've been getting frustrated lately more than I used to, what is it that's my goal? Like, why am I letting that frustration happen? Things to unpack. What lurking excuses about my condition are holding me back from consistently being peaceful, loving, and kind? Consistently being happy. One of the assertions that the philosopher makes is happiness is something available to everyone and something that we can live in continuously. We can exist there and stay there. And so what excuses are letting myself create these states of anxiety and anger. This is, in the first night, mostly a space to bring things out into the open and let things breathe. There's a lot to digest. And my assumption is that the following nights will equip me to work through some of these questions to a meaningful and actionable end or beginning, depending on how you want to frame it. Are you okay just as you are? Here's a quote. The important thing is not what one is born with, but what use one makes of that equipment. Okay, so there's a lot in there, but rather than wanting to be like someone else, how am I looking at what it is that I have and awakening that, bringing that to life? Because that's what Gabriel has. I don't have what you have. You don't have what I have. We may share some things, but it's no use for me and a glorious waste of my time to sit inactive out of some kind of jealousy or envy or just fantasy of what I don't have. That, well, if only I had this kind of access, or won the lottery when I went to Kentucky to visit my grandma, or whatever. If only I went to Harvard, had that network. No, what do I have? So, and how am I using it? So there's a lot of provocation there. A lot that I will have to work through and may be coming in the following nights. Something I'll be talking about. Could be. Okay, unhappiness is something you choose for yourself. I talked about how I've been getting more frustrated in recent years. The position here is that I would rather be frustrated than act against goals that I've set. So frustration is a place that I'm choosing to dwell in. And it is somehow, through some kind of calculus, a better place for me to be than to confront some of these goals or barriers that I've established and move into, some unknown or what have you space. So the invitation here is for me to be vulnerable in this journey, to recognize these goals that maybe I'm not so aware of, so that I can dismantle them, reconstruct them into something that helps me get where I really want to go. Okay, here's a quote. But hold on, let me check on the time here. Where are we at? Oh my goodness. 11:52. My hope was to finish this in 10 minutes. I didn't make that goal. You can always edit. I can edit written stuff. Editing videos is a thing that's like, why? I like the authentic spaces in between. I feel like there's a meaningful humanity there, a connection that we'll often lose out here in the world of YouTube or what have you, because there's this focus on like production value and content per second. Well, we can take a step back to ask ourselves, well, what kind of content is valuable? And if what you're experiencing here is not valuable to you, then you know that. And you don't have to stay. But what I'm interested in is connection and facilitating a kind of heart-to-heart, between myself and you, between others. That's where our hope is. It's not in, well, how much can we deliver and digest per minute, but what is the quality of the connection we share? And I studied community development. There's a lot of interesting research I could talk about on that note, as it deals with how community is able to grow or otherwise will fail. Relationships are key. It's obvious interpersonally, but when we think about the grander scheme, we sometimes forget that the same rule applies. So that quote, back to that quote. Adlerian psychology is a psychology of courage. Your unhappiness cannot be blamed on your past or on your environment. And it is not that you lack competence. You just lack courage. One might say you are lacking in the courage to be happy. I like feeling safe I like to avoid the potential of rejection and criticism. I'm a big people pleaser, servant of everyone type of me. And my servant heart is one of my superpowers. I need to understand, meditate on, see how my conflict aversion holds me back from having the kind of impact that I want to have, that I feel I should have. I might talk about responsibility in a second here, but that I feel responsible to have. There's just this kind of, to sum it up, there's a social contract that we all share, and we need to engage with that morality is something we all pitch in on. And so my conflict aversion, that actually helps sustain the existence of evil in the world. And that's no good. So I need to get over myself. Is kind of how, that's really maybe what this all boils down to, is get over yourself. Gabe, get over yourself. So, so that's it. That's it. There's really, like, I could say more, but what more needs to be said? Here's a little piece of poetry. After I read this the first time, myriad tensions held, satisfaction, feeling, opportunity. Abstain my hand from venturing beyond. Fear, pain, rejection, failure, something precious lost. Time, reputation, faith, knowledge that I am good. The unknown could rain down anything on me. This small shelter, my fortress. Where you find my bones, the courage of my heart is measured. The past does not exist. Another quote. Adler's teleology tells us, no matter what has occurred in your life up until this point, it should have no bearing at all on how you live from now on. That you, living in the here and now, are the one who determines your own life. Who is Adler? What is teleology? Alfred Adler was a famous psychologist who ran with Sigmund Freud and that Austrian gang, the Vienna some such or other. But he countered against Freud on this critical point, and that's where the teleology comes in, which, so far as Adler, or at least so far as this work is concerned, considers that our ways of behaving are grounded in future wants and not in past causes. So it's what we've been talking about. It's just where that the philosophy here was grounded in that psychology. So I've really enjoyed my journey so far. This video means that I have wrapped up the first night. I've also written some work on this that you'll see on my blog, gabrielconnors.com. I want to throw it up on my LinkedIn too. And it dives in a little more deep on some of these points, and has some other observations and comments along the way. But now this means that I get to move on to the second night, and we can look forward to some kind of distillation of that next week. A final note. This philosophy, this psychology, you don't find it so much in our Western kind of thinking. We rely a lot on using and grounding our troubles that we face today in basically blaming the past. And in many ways, we can frame a meaningful future out of that. But what I love about this reframing toward the future as informing the present is it's beautifully redemptive. It's like if you take the concept of grace and apply it to psychology and give it a religious philosophy, you'd end up with something like this, where it doesn't matter what's happened in our past, what's happened to us, or what sins that we have wrought upon the world. There is a justice consideration of all that, but insofar as how does that define us? And where do we go from here? We can, in a moment, dispense of all that baggage and anchor ourselves to the most meaningful and glorious vision of the future that we have. Or we can anchor ourselves to the search for that. And in that process, we give ourselves wings. We become like frisky and frolicking goats on the hillside. It's a liberation. And I hope that you find some kind of liberating quality in all of this. I look forward to where this takes us. And I just do want to thank the authors, Kishimi and Koga. I want to thank Jerry Doyle, who referred me into this journey. And if you are a fan of this kind of way of thinking and giving frameworks to how it is that we approach the world and ourselves and our engagement, thinking about our journeys in this kind of way where maybe you're able to map things and reformat to get where you want to go, to discover where you want to go. There is the Tree Kosane movement. It's a lot of resource, essentially, to help you get and or discover where you're trying to go, to help you come alive in ways that are meaningful to yourself and to the world. Tree Kosane, TRICOSAIN.com. It's Celtic. It's like a knot, a weaving of things. So you can go explore to your heart's content. Let me know if you have any questions. And just, I wish you so much love. Until next time, may you have the courage to move beyond whatever it is. Ciao.